Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
Hello, everyone. This is Mac Story. Today on Blue Collar Leadership, I'm going to share with you a little bit of my story, basically from there to here. So probably going to take a couple of episodes, but as we get started, and new listeners may go back, listen to old episodes, so kind of want to introduce myself, and I'll chop it up into a couple of different episodes so it doesn't take too long on any one particular episode. So I'm going to start back pretty much at the beginning when I graduated high school. And one thing you need to know, I know a lot of you probably heard of 007, James Bond. One thing I always tell people when I'm on stage speaking is I say I had never watched a James Bond movie, but I've seen the previews. I know James Bond's cool. So just want you to know that back in high school, my nickname was 007. And not because I was cool like James Bond, but because that was my GPA. Y'all with me? It wasn't that bad, but it was really pretty bad. And I barely graduated, but I did graduate high school. What I did was I joined Marine Corps, United States Marines, and I was signed up as an infantryman. That's what I wanted to do. They said I could do a lot of other things, but I wanted to shoot the rifle and be in an infantry unit. So that's what I did. Went to Parris Islands. I graduated high school in 1987, and I started out in Parris Island on September 10th, 1987, graduated December 3rd, 1987. And I actually graduated second in my platoon with a meritorious promotion, and then went up the coast from Parris Island, South Carolina, to Camp Geiger, North Carolina, for infantry school. And the reason I'm telling you this story is this really how I got into manufacturing. My bunkmate at Camp Geiger, his father was actually a supervisor in a manufacturing plant in Montgomery, Alabama. And I grew up in Tallahassee, Alabama, a little town about 5,000 or 6,000 people. It's pretty much been the population since the beginning of time, I reckon. Hasn't really changed. But so met my bunkmate as soon as we graduated infantry school, went back to the real world, and started doing our monthly weekend drills with the Marine Reserve Unit out of Montgomery. But my friend got me a job with his dad. He talked to his dad, and he got me a job in a manufacturing plant down in Montgomery, Alabama. And I was actually working on a line that produced steering knuckles for the big rigs that you see going up and down the road, pulling the big trailers. So I was on a line, and actually my very first job was on a large broach. And I write about this story in my book, Defining Influence. Increasing your influence increases your options. I kind of tell my whole story. The last 3 chapters of that book are titled From There to Here, and it breaks down some of the stories. But I talk about that, and in my book, Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, which I wrote for entry-level frontline workers, I tell this story. And the very first job, they put me on this broach. I got about 5 minutes of training, basically how to push the buttons and how to unload the machine, and then they turned me loose. And this large broach probably had broach plates. They were probably about 10, 12 feet long. 2 of them side by side. When one was going down, the other one was going up. And these knuckles sit inside the fixture. And there was 2 fixtures, so they would rotate. One would flip down and one would flip up. While it was down, it was being broached, and I was switching out the other one, and then it would flip back down, and I'd repeat the process. The thing about it is, this thing was so oily that when I got home that day, my underwear was soaked in oil all the way through. And it was that way for a couple of weeks. Finally, after a couple of weeks of being the new guy, and I guess people enjoyed the laughs to begin with, and then they finally told me, so, hey, man, if you go down to the break room, you can get a plastic apron for $1. I said, oh, that's nice to know. So I started making that a habit. And then I worked there for about a year. I worked on several different machines while I was there. But that was how I got started in my blue-collar manufacturing career. It wasn't a choice I decided back when I was growing up, hey, I want to be a machine operator in a manufacturing plant. It was because of my bunkmate in infantry school in Camp Geiger, North Carolina. That's how I got into manufacturing. When you got a GPA of 007, you take what you can get. So that's where I was at, and that's where I got started. I worked there for a year, and then a lot of us got laid off. And one thing I always did was I always run high production. I worked hard. I worked long hours. I remember working doubles a lot of times, 16 hours, 7 days a week, first shift, second shift, third shift. So, and what I'm telling you now, I'll be sharing some more with you in the next episode, but that pretty much was my life for the first 10 years. So when I say I come from the blue collar manufacturing world, I come from the front lines. So I'm going to stop it here today, and we'll pick up part 2 on my journey from there to here. But you kind of got an idea of where I started from. And I'm proud of it. And I had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed running those machines and doing the hard, heavy, hot work. But just kind of giving you a basic foundation of how my journey began. So it'll take a few episodes, but I hope you guys have a great day. See you next time.
Make it happen, or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.